Hi, I'm Miller and welcome to another Miller's Game Room video. This one is going to be a localization wishlist video. So I haven't played too much in terms of Otome games lately, which is something that I tend to make videos on as a whole genre. I have a little playlist on my channel, and for this video I'm gonna, make a localization wishlist to, satisfy the thirst for new content regarding 2D husbandos, because as we all know, husbandos are amazing and better than real men. So all that said, if you want to channel, like, comment, subscribe, thanks very much. Let's get started. So, got a couple of rules. I've not put any games in this little list that are coming out in Japan in the next few months or years, especially if it's by Idea Factory, because those games are so new that they'll likely get picked up eventually anyway, especially given that almost everything by Otomate gets localized nowadays in terms of new stuff. So, got a lot of nice stuff to look forward to there. Keep your Parafan disc, please. I want it, please, please. And the second thing is, I've tried to have some grounds of realism for most of these. One of them won a couple of my pipe dreams, but I didn't want to overwhelm the list too much, so I'll probably not making a part 2 at some point if this one has a positive reception. So I'm going to get started now. I don't have any physical games to hand as a prompt because, these are unlocalized, and physical games can be expensive to import. But if you see behind me, I've got a bunch of lovely looking Otome games here I've all played. They all vary in quality, but are mostly generally quite positive, and especially the husbandos, because husbandos are very sexy. So anyway, I've got my a little list here, my script, and that said, let's begin. Clock Zero. So, Clock Zero is a very popular Otome game in the Japanese fanbase and in the unlocalized fanbase outside Japan as well. This is one that's been highly requested for a very long time and is at the top of my list as well in terms of what I want to see. Maybe not the number one, but from Otomate it would be my absolute number one. And it's one I'm going to cover in this video, because if I talked about Otomate, that'd be a whole video of its own because there's just so many. So I've got a nice description of the story here. For those who don't know much about it, it is a sci-fi VN with high school elements, so this is going to be interesting. I've got the descriptions from VNDB for this and some other games here, so I'll be reading directly off it. Koru Narashiko is the 12-year-old daughter of some wealthy high-class members. She goes to a wealthy school with her childhood friend and hopes to become a doctor one day. However, every night she has a dream about being in another world. That world is full of ruins, and she is 10 years older. One day, a transfer student named Kaido Takato comes to her class, and she gets involved in an after-school extracurricular club, which they call Clock Zero. So you can kind of guess a bit about it there. It's got a lot of sci-fi. I believe it's got some really plot-heavy aspects of it as well. I've not played it. This game has been around for quite a while. People have attempted to fan translate it, especially for the Vita version, because this game was originally a PlayStation 2 title in 2010. And then you've got the PSP port, the Vita port, and then the Switch port, which came out in 2019. And I will one day play that when I can speak enough moon runes. So, when I can finally, get that into gear, when I'm not too busy playing existing games already in English. And yeah, I want to see it. I hope it happens. I think it will, especially because, it's on Switch, and Idea Factory most recently announced Charade Maniacs, which is an older title which got ported to Switch, so I have hope that we'll get this game. And plus also, Norn 9 is coming this summer in terms of its fan disc for the first time, so I have hope that we'll be getting some of these older titles in the future and not just fan discs. So Clock Zero is the absolute top of my list for that. Uta no Prince Sama. Oh, this one's a whole massive franchise. It's got so many games, media, anime, drama CDs, vocal CDs, I think stage plays, and just tons of other stuff. Oh, and the mobile game as well, Shining Live, which is just shutting down outside of Japan, so that lasted for 6 years, which is way longer than a lot of phone games. So it's popular, and I know people in my real life and online who are into it, so Utapuri has a very big long tail. But we've never gotten the games in English. The first game is Utapuri Repeat Love. I think I touched on this game briefly in my Nipponichi video, which is a while back, because yes, this is one Nipponichi helped out with, and they don't do much of the ends anymore, else with Broccoli anyway, apart from ports, so but hey, it's Nipponichi, it's related. But also, this particular game, which is what, if we ever got the VNs localized, would come first. This VN is the very first game. You are the woman, Nanami Haruka, who goes to a Saotome Academy and is basically seeking out a star, and the stars are, well, the husbandos on the cover. So you go see the husbandos, see romance husbandos, and rhythm game elements as well, because that's going to be a key aspect of this game's appeal. So I want to play it. I hope it comes over. I believe it will, because, well, Broccoli have licensed out Jack Gian, which is their very first officially localized overseas release. That is coming out in June, in Chinese and in English, and if that does well, I can see them being like, we need to start releasing more of our games over here. And Utano Prince Sama fits the bill for that perfectly. There's several fan discs in the series on the Switch, as well as Repeat Love and other things. Like, there's like 7 games, and 4 of them are now on Switch, which is really cool. And then there's an old Bulls Vita game, if it ever comes out, that's on Switch, even though, well, it was originally a Vita game, hence Dolls Vita. But, you know, I hope to see it. I would be all over it, because, you know, it's exactly what this series deserves. You get these, like, really popular Otome games worldwide, and these animes, they deserve to get the original games, and, you know, I want it, and I'll be getting Jack Gian and helping to do my bit to hope it happens, because, you know, husbandos are great. Angelique Ritor. Okay, so this one is more of a historically significant title rather than this might happen, but first off, it's not on Switch. But it did come out on the PSP and the Vita in 2015. Yep, they were releasing PSP games in Japan, brand new, physical, in 2015. But anyway, this is a remake of the very first Otome game ever made, which was originally called Angelique. It basically birthed the genre back in the 90s. They released it, and, well, over from there it snowballed. This is a game by Ruby Party, which is a label that is now owned by Koei Tecmo. It's the whole Otome and Josuke label, where they aim for games aimed at women. Has a lot of history behind it. It's honestly worth a video all on its own, and it's got a lot of nice things going for it. They're more gameplay heavy oriented, these games, these Angelique games, and a lot of Ruby Party games, but Ritor being the very first game is one reason why this one's at the top of my list. And the protagonist, and this is a story here, the protagonist has been chosen as one of the new Queen candidates. Together with her rival, they take the examination. Supported by the 9 Guardians who serve the Queen, she works to complete the exam. And yeah, this particular remake adds, well, improved art and new routes, so you know, the kind of things that these remakes normally get. So yeah, it's not on Switch. It probably will get a port someday, knowing these companies, like a lot of these companies re-release a ton of stuff. So you can trust these companies eventually will want to bring these games over and milk them. But yeah, will this come over? Well, first off, Angelique Ritor is not on Switch. It was released before the Switch was even announced, so obviously it wouldn't have been put there. But the most recent game in the series, Angelique Luminarice, I think that's how you pronounce it, is on Switch. So that one, if it ever gets localized, will be that one, the newest game in the series. And will it actually happen? Well, Koei Tecmo and Ruby Party have made lots of comments over the years about wanting to actually possibly bring the games over from Ruby Party, and this hasn't kind of happened. They've kind of talked about it going, we're interested, but we're probably not going to, in sense of that their actions have speaking louder than words, really. Like, they've released quite a few Ruby Party games in Chinese now. Like, the Chinese market for Otome games is bigger than the Western one. Well, it's partly because, well, Western Otome fans tend to not get much in the first place and treat it as more of an afterthought, but okay. And then the second thing is, like, lately Ruby Party, like, they have done a bit of dabbling into Josuke, and we did get one game from them, the first official localization, which is Token Rambi Warriors. It's not actually an Otome game, it's Josuke, and it's a Warriors game, not a visual novel. And I haven't played it, but Koei Tecmo were like, oh, if it does well, we'll bring the Ruby Party games over, hashtag Otome Ally, which that didn't go down well, but you know, I think it will happen someday. They'll bring over some of these Ruby Party games, because, like, I mean, they're now bringing over a remake of the very first Atelier game and other things like that, so, you know, I think they will eventually do it, especially as the Otome market in the West continues to grow, and I'm going to touch on a bit more about its growth in the next couple. Shinigami to Shoujo. Okay, so this one is, unless you're reading to the Otome community, you've probably never heard of this one. But there's a good reason for that, and also why the game is worth watching as well, which is another good reason. So this game is developed by a company named Takuyo. They are quite an obscure developer. They've never had any of their games released overseas. They've been around a very long time. Like, they've been around since the late 90s, releasing all kinds of games, although they slowly settled into making Girls Love games, and, well, not Girls Love, Otome games, even though I think they've made Yuri as well. A couple of interesting games they've made. They made a game called Nekopara. No, not that Nekopara. This Nekopara, which you would have never heard of, because I certainly didn't until I was researching for this video. And they also released 2 games on the original Xbox. So yeah, alongside the likes of Tenereza and SMT9, you two can play whatever this is. I forgot its name when recording it. As for Shinigami to Shoujo, translated as The Death Reaper and the Girl, this is the plot. Tuno Sayo is a beautiful girl but lives with her older brother, Tuno Toya, who is an author. Her brother tells her about his next story, Shinigami to Shoujo. He explains it'll be about a lonely Shinigami and a girl, and their search for the most beautiful word that exists. One day, when Sayo looked up at the clock tower that has long ceased to move, she met a man wearing strange white clothes. When she asked him who he is and why he is wearing such weird clothes, he told her he has no memory of his identity and that the only thing he knows is that he's a Shinigami, so Death Reaper. Sayo suggests that if he does not know his name, she'll give him one, and named him Io. Io, whatever. Blue, after how similar the man's eyes are to the colour of the sky. So Takuyo games broadly fall into one of 2 categories, either really cute and light-hearted, like they've got a game about romancing frogs and humans and that kind of thing, where humans transform into frogs. I forgot its name, that's not here. And then they've got more quote-unquote messed up games like this game. So it's going to be interesting, and I will play this one someday if Fan Patch comes out or I ever speak enough Japanese to read it. So it did get a partial patch a long time ago for its PSP version, because yes, this game's quite old as well. Originally a PSP game, and then came with the Vita, and now is on the Switch. It came on the Switch like last year, so if it can get localized, it will be this Switch version. So pretty good. So the viability of a platform is there. But from what I've seen, one comment that came to my attention when I was researching this is, according to Molly Lee, who's one of the biggest Otome game enthusiasts outside Japan and has actually localized them, including one of the first, if not only, R18 release, said that basically, like, no localizer seems interested in Takuyo games, so the implications have not reached out, which I've got the picture on screen. So that's interesting. Not surprised, because in the wider context of the tweets, like, oh, we don't want to go after these older games because we might potentially go after the stuff that comes to us and it's like obscure but no one's heard of. So we'll get these ones because they're cheaper, and it's like we got Paradigm Paradox instead. Yoshiwara Higginbottom. So this is like one of the last games on this list, but this one is unique because I actually think this one could happen. And this particular game is an R18 game, because yes, they exist, and this one is a historical VN set in the Taisho era. And I'm going to read the blurb, because I think the blurb itself kind of explains a lot about the game. So, as said, it is the Edo era. Lust and desire swells within the other side of the luxurious and gorgeous Shin Yoshiwara, at a long-standing brothel called Okaya. Yep, there's brothels in this. The protagonist Shihara works as a top-ranking Orion courtesan. In other words, she's a sex worker. In order to go back to her motherland, she entertains male strangers day and night. Her unchanging everyday life. Yoshiwara might be a small world, but to Chihara, it's a treasured place in which she can prove herself. The brothel's owner, Shiguri, her servant, Yuzu, the strong-willed fellow harlots that work alongside her. Surrounded by irreplaceable people, though her line of work is called the World of Suffering, Chihaya is proud of being a courtesan, until she learned what true love is. This is the story of upheaval in which an Orion gets swallowed by a fate she cannot fight against. So yeah, it interests me a lot. It's also been one that Otome fans I know have talked about positively. It is quite a difficult one to read, even for people who read Japanese games who can't speak Japanese natively, so this isn't one that a lot of people will actually be able to read because it is, well, quite historical with a lot of mature content. So why do I think this one could happen? First off, this game is on Steam, so it has a Steam release in Chinese from, I can't remember the name of the company, but they were like, oh, we could release this in English in the future, and that was like 2 years ago and nothing's come of that. But the fact that it's on Steam is a good start. As this was originally a PC game, this Steam version doesn't have the R18 content, but it also doesn't have an extra route that was added in the PS Vita version, and then by extension the Nintendo Switch version. And the Switch version, and this is why I think it could come over, is published by Prototype. They ported it, and if you know anything about Prototype, lately they've been porting and releasing a ton of their stuff overseas with multi-language support as well, and even going back and patching older games, which is what they've done for a couple of Otome games now. And apparently, in the most recent issue of B's Log, in like March 2023, they were like, oh, these have actually done much better than we've expected, we're going to do more. So I think they'll pick this one next. So I actually think they will do it. There's a couple of others they could choose, like there's a few others which I can't remember the name of, but they're there, it's President. And also we're starting getting more 18 plus Otome or Otome games with R18 versions in general. We got Benny Banner last month, which came from Dramatic Crate, Butterfly's Poison from Prototype, and then of course there were the Kalmia 8 games on PC a little while back. So I think it could happen, so I believe it will happen in the next few years, and I'm confident of that because I can't wait to play as a sex worker in a brothel and have this cute, wholesome atmosphere. She like learns what true love is and goes through that. It's going to be interesting, or maybe not so much cute because of the setting, but like the character development, I just feel there's lots of potential in that, you know? Kenka Bancho Otome. Yep, this is the last one because collectively I'm just going to cover all 3 games here because if you know anything about these, you'll probably know what they are. These are Otome game spin-offs in the Kenka Bancho series, where our protagonist goes undercover as a boy in high school, kind of like Jack Gian in terms of its concept, and maybe some other games as well. And it goes from there. As it is a spin-off of the Kenka Bancho Otome series, there was a reasonable expectation back in the Vita era that Spike Chunsoft would localize it, and then there was that localization poll, which Kenka Bancho Otome won, and then it didn't turn up, and then it just kind of died out. I never really addressed what happened with that, not public anyway. And then now Just Dance very recently were like, hey, we're going to be publishing these in Chinese for the Switch. So obviously was sanctioned by Spike Chunsoft. They said they were, quote-unquote, considering a Japanese release, which means they're going to do it eventually. And maybe that might lead to an English one, maybe not. But I think, at the very least, it's now going to be possible again. And given that it's Spike Chunsoft, and given that the Otome market overseas has grown significantly in the last few years, especially given how many more companies are wanting to get in on the action and rake in some money, I think they will do it eventually. And maybe explain what happened properly, because you can only speculate. And I talked about this for almost 10 minutes in my last podcast episode at the time of recording this, so I'll leave a link to that as well. I'll watch it, it's about halfway through. I'll try to put a timestamp if I remember, but I'm probably not going to, but if I don't, remind me please. And that will do it for this video. I've rambled on quite a bit. Let me know if you want a part 2, because there are so many games I could have added. I could have talked about loads more games by Otomate. That's probably a whole video in itself. And then of course there's other games by different companies I've not touched on. I've not even touched on Rejet or other Broccoli games, so yeah, there's lots of potential. Not even considering other genres as well, which or AC Plus, because that's yeah, fangirling about unlocalized games is pretty fun. It stops you playing actual games that are already localized in English or learning Japanese. Anyway, thank you so much. If you want to support the channel, like, comment, subscribe, algorithm boosting stuff, thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.